When it comes to every gun ever created, without a doubt, the MP5 is one of my favorites of all time. Unfortunately, the MP5 is made by a company known as H&K. And because of that, if you want to purchase one, you're going to be paying the H&K tax. With the MSRP on a SP5, which is the civilian version of the MP5, being about $3,500. So obviously that's not exactly an insignificant amount of change, at least for me, so naturally I never got around to buying one. However, when I discovered that they made a .22 long rifle version of it, I was intrigued. And when I found out that I could get one on Palmetto State Armory for $450, I jumped on it instantly with the hopes that this firearm could go scratch that MP5 itch that I have for a much cheaper price. And does it do that? Well, yes, but also no. And I'll explain why. So in creating this rifle, there was a whole lot of differences that they made to it in comparison to a standard MP5. So in this video, I'll be going over these differences with you, and hopefully then you can make the decision for yourself if you want to go ahead and try to go buy one of these in an attempt to go scratch that MP5 itch. So before we get too deep into this video, I want to make something very clear. I'm going to be being mean to this gun and making some criticisms of it. That does not mean by any means that this is a bad firearm. If you're looking at this rifle purely from the perspective as wanting a .22 long rifle firearm, this firearm does all that fine. I also understand that a lot of these criticisms I'm going to be pointing out are sacrifices that they determined that they needed to make in order to bring the price down from 1/7 the cost of what a standard MP5 would be. It's just that these are sacrifices that I want to go put out so that you can determine if you are willing to go put up with them to go scratch that MP5 itch that you have. Also, one more thing that I want to bring up before we get into this is this firearm is not actually made by H&K. However, it is made with H&K's blessing. This firearm is actually made by Umarex. And for those who don't know, Umarex is a company that I actually didn't know they made firearms. However, they're mainly known for making pellet guns and other air guns like high-quality replica BB guns. So this firearm is not made by H&K, however, it is made with H&K's blessing by Umarex. Okay, so just to start out with this firearm, the first thing that I want to point out is the actual mechanism of action on it. So in a standard MP5 and 9mm, you have what's called a roller or delayed recoil system. This firearm does not have that, it just has a standard blowback recoil system. However, it's a .22 long rifle, there's not much recoil anyway, so that is not a huge deal, to me at least. However, something that I do not like about the design of this firearm is when you field strip it to clean it, you actually cannot take the bolt out of this channel that it is attached to. You actually need to clean it while it is in this channel. And I'm really not a fan of that because when I clean my guns, I like to actually be able to remove the bolt and, clean every part of it. So that's actually something I don't like about the design. You might need to clean it more. Will it end up causing failures if you don't keep up with your clean? I don't know. Then another thing that I want to go point out about this firearm is just with the overall build of it. So an actual MP5 is made primarily of metal, and unfortunately with this firearm, there's a whole lot of polymer that was used. I understand that this was a cost-cutting measure that they used to go keep the price of the firearm down. However, unfortunately, with all the polymer, it doesn't feel like a firearm, so to speak. It feels more like something like a high-quality airsoft gun or like even a toy. It's not flimsy to the point where, if I drop this, I'm afraid it will break. However, just due to being so much polymer, it doesn't really feel like an actual firearm. So on a more positive note, one of my favorite parts about this firearm is this PDW stock that comes with it. This is freaking awesome. I love this. I'm so happy that they decided to keep the authenticity of the MP5 and Umarex decided to go all out and keep the PDW stock. They could have went the easy way out and did just like a solid stock or a folding stock. However, they decided to go all out and do the PDW stock. I actually absolutely love that. So moving up top for the actual sights, you actually can purchase a rail and go put it on here if you want to go put a dot. However, I learned very quickly that putting red dots on everything can end up being very, very expensive. So with this, I just use the standard iron sight peep sights that they have here. I'm not too used to peep sights, but after a few megs, I was able to get them down. It's actually cool because you have 4 different settings here, so you can actually go ahead and change your field of view to whatever you like in terms of the peep sights. And in terms of accuracy, I did not have any problems with it. I was able to hit what I felt like I was shooting at, so that is nice. Then the PDW stock was the second best part of this firearm, but the entire best part of this firearm is that right there. The old H&K slap. It's not an MP5 if you can't do the H&K slap. And the bolts lock back. Because they had a magazine in it. So, while I have this out, so also this firearm comes with a 25 round magazine. What I like about this is with a lot of firearms, like regardless of what state you buy it in, they'll just go ahead and ship you a 10 round magazine. This is extremely common with 22 long rifle. I'm extremely happy that they included 25 round magazines. That's awesome, and you can buy more of these online, however they aren't exactly cheap. And moving on to the ergos of the gun, in terms of like the grip, it's fine. I know a big problem with this Scorpion is having the safety actually dig into your finger while you shoot it. Here, as you can see, it clears the safety pretty well, so that was not a problem with it. I was worried about that, however it was not. Then when it comes to the mag release, something I do like that they did is they included both the push button and the paddle. One of my big things I did not like about the newer versions of the Scorpion is they completely got rid of the paddle, if I'm remembering correctly, and just opted for just the push button. From a tactical standpoint, yeah, it's better to have the push button, but there's nothing like using the paddle and not dropping your magazine, so I'm really happy that they chose to do both. Now it's all downhill from here. So my second biggest complaint with this firearm is this handguard right here. So the standard MP5 has a very distinct and slick handguard. Instead, they opted for this cylindrical monstrosity, which I'm not a big fan of. I'm pretty sure that it actually was in response to my biggest problem with this firearm, but we will get into that in a second. It just doesn't look good. In terms of like actual comfort, like I could shoot this without gloves. It's not bad, but it's not necessarily great either. It's just kind of there. So my biggest issue with this firearm is under federal law, in order for a rifle to not be a short-barreled rifle and fall under the NFA, it needs to go have a 16-inch barrel. So in order to make it not look pretty goofy on this, they did a Fox suppressor here. Well, faux suppressor, my bad. But if you can actually take this off, right? To get that. So, with that, can you leave this faux suppressor off and suppress this barrel? No, you cannot, because it is an extremely very thin pencil barrel. I wouldn't trust it to actually hold the weight of a suppressor. Then on top of that, your threads here are a very small thread pattern that is about the diameter of a 22 long rifle, not a 1/2x28 on a standard suppressor. So, why did Umarex do this? Okay, if you're trying to, I would much rather pay an extra $50 to have a barrel that's more, I would say, thicker or more sturdy than this pencil barrel to be able to accommodate a suppressor. Then on the end, just do 1/2x28 threads and have this faux suppressor screw on to that. Yeah, you'll have a bigger opening, but whatever. Who cares? This is a complete travesty, because for me, the only firearms that I do not shoot suppressed now pretty much are shotguns without a threaded barrel or a barrel with a choke on it, like older guns like lever actions where it's not threaded, or handguns, and I still shoot those suppressed sometimes. It is so terrible that I cannot suppress this firearm, and that just sucks so much. So I understand on the pistol version of this firearm that you are able to attach a suppressor. However, if you get the pistol version, then you give up this PDW stock, which is my second favorite part of the entire firearm. And then, I mean, sure, at that point you can go put a folding brace on it, or, you know, just a solid brace. However, at that point, then it's not an MP5 with a PDW stock. So ultimately, with that being said, those are my complaints about this firearm. Like I said, if you're looking at it just purely from a rifle perspective, it's fine. It's accurate enough, it's reliable enough, but it's what you can expect from 22 long rifle. It's just that if you are hoping to go purchase this firearm to scratch that MP5 itch, then these are some sacrifices that you need to go be willing to accept if you're going to be going this route to go scratch that itch. And I guess the big question is, did this scratch the MP5 itch for me? Not really. I mean, I still want an MP5 in 9mm. I still hope to buy one day. However, do I regret buying this firearm? No, I don't. Like I said, it's cool. It gives you an MP5 experience. It's just not close enough to the real thing to make it so that I don't want an actual MP5 as well.